What's going on, guys? My name is Richard, and welcome back to the weekly watch list video sponsored by MarketSmith. As always, we'll go through both the fundamentals and technicals of all the stocks on my focus list, and I have a little bit more than usual this week, so feel free to skip around using the timestamps that are in the comment section and also in the description. If you enjoy my analysis, please go ahead and leave a like down below as well. It really helps me out and my channel, and of course subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one every single week. So diving right in, let's start with AMWL, and taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see it's not yet profitable, but it does have really nice revenue growth, accelerating quarter over quarter. And looking at the annual estimates, you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. EPS rating is only a 6, the group RS is a B-, the SMR rating is a D, accumulation distribution is not available, and the overall composite rating is a 57. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see there's 15 funds invested into the stock, and you also have one high-quality fund in there as well. And look at the chart, you can see that the RS line has been basing along with the price, and it's about to form its first IPO base with a pivot at 41.80. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is either a green dot early next week or a retake of the 10 EMA on above average volume. And I really like this formation. You can see it's got a bit of support and resistance at about this 32 level, where it was resistance back here, and now it's support in these recent days with some nice upside reversals right at the 21 EMA. So that's AMWL, and next on the list, we've got COUP software. And overall, you can see excellent growth in terms of earnings and sales. Last quarter earnings up 200%, sales up 32%, and return on equity up 13.1%. You can see it's supposed to take a hit in 2021, but bounce right back in 2022 in terms of annual EPS. The EPS rating is a 77, the group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is an A, accumulation distribution is D+, and the overall composite rating is a 96. And look at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past 2 years, and you have 4 high-quality funds investing in the stock as well. And look at the chart, you can see it's been basing for quite a while now, and is now in a stage 2 cup with handle with a standard pivot of 320.30, and the RS line has been basing along with the price. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is eventually a breakout through the standard pivot, but also a green dot early next week would be actionable if it acts well on volume. So that's COUP, and next up we've got DDOG. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth here. Last quarter earnings up 350%, sales up 68%, and return on equity up 5%. And you can see that it's just supposed to be profitable in 2020, and it's supposed to increase 25% in terms of annual EPS in 2021. The EPS rating is a 77, the group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is a B+, and the overall composite rating is a very strong 98. Looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and you have 3 high-quality funds in there as well. And if we look at the chart, you can see it was in a stage 2 consolidation, broke out on above average volume, the largest volume since the base, and then moved up and then retraced its gains right to the pivot on lower than average volume. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a green dot early next week and a retake of the key 21 EMA, and eventually a breakout into all-time highs above 118.13. So next up on the list, we've got Net or Cloudflare, and overall you can see excellent revenue growth the past 3 quarters. Last quarter sales up 48%, but return on equity was down 14.2%. And looking at the annual estimates, you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. The EPS rating is a 57, the group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is a D, accumulation distribution is a B+, and the overall composite rating is a 95. And look at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past few years, and overall you've got 3 high-quality funds investing into this stock as well. And looking at the chart, you can see it just broke out of a stage 2 cup with a standard pivot of 45.28, and you can see it was on the largest volume since the base, and since then it's been pulling back slightly and looks like it's forming a nice kind of consolidation at about the 55 level. So as for an entry setup, what I want to see is a continued move up from this teal dot right here, and potentially a green dot early next week, which is a 10-4 stochastic cross, where this red line crosses back above the blue line after being oversold. And eventually I want to see a breakout into all-time highs at about 61.67, and overall you can see a nice inside day on this Friday because this entire trading range was contained in the trading range of Thursday, so you could also use a breakout above this high of 56.64 as another pivot or an early entry. Next on the list, we've got NVIDIA, and overall you can see excellent earnings growth the past few quarters. Last quarter earnings up 76%, sales up 50%, and return on equity up 39.2%. And overall, you can see that in 2021, it was supposed to increase 58% in terms of annual EPS, and it's supposed to have a further 21% in 2022. The EPS rating is a 98, the group RS is an A, SMR rating is an A, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall comps rating is a 99. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past few years, and you have a whole bunch of high quality funds investing into this stock. If we look at the chart, you can see that the RS line has been steadily increasing, and right now it's in a stage 3 cup with handle with a standard pivot of 573.94. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a green dot early next week, and I like how it's finding support at the 21 EMA, and hopefully it continues to move up on above average volume and eventually breaks out above that standard pivot of 573.88. So that is NVIDIA, and next on the list we've got Peloton. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth, especially last quarter. Earnings were up 259%, sales up 172%, but return on equity was down 4.5%. And overall, looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see in 2021, it's just supposed to be profitable and it's supposed to increase 388% in 2022. Overall, the EPS rating is at 42, the group RS is an A, SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is an A, and the overall comps rating is a 93. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, especially in the recent quarters, and you have 3 high-quality funds investing into this stock as well. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see it's been pretty much going vertical, but it has had this nice pullback to the 21 EMA, and the RS line has pretty much reflected the price change as well. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a continued move up from this pullback and potentially a green dot early next week, and eventually a breakout to new all-time highs above 139.75. And it's also worth mentioning that the earnings are coming up for a bunch of these growth stocks very, very soon. So make sure you know when your companies and the companies you're looking at are supposed to report their earnings. So moving on, we've got RH, Restoration Hardware, and looking at the earnings and sales, you can see that there hasn't been too much growth, a little bit back here, but last quarter earnings were up 53%, although sales were up 0%, and return on equity was not available. And overall, looking at the annual EPS, you can see in 2021, it was supposed to increase 45%, and in 2022, a further 12%, although revisions are down. The EPS rating is a 91, the group RS is an A+, the SMR rating is not available, accumulation distribution is a B+, and the overall comps rating is a 96. And overall, looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and 2 high-quality funds in there as well. And overall, you can see from the chart that's been basing nicely after this gap up on huge volume. And overall, this is a stage 1 consolidation with a standard pivot of 410.49. And you can see they draw in the pivot right here for you. So as for the setup that I would plan to use, it would be a breakout above a kind of early pivot here, above 404.77 before the true breakout into all-time highs. And basically a continuation from these 2 nice days right here, the teal dot on Thursday and the green dot on Friday. So that's RH, and next up we've got Roku. And taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see it's not yet profitable, but does have really nice revenue growth at about 50% clip the past few quarters. And looking at the annual EPS, you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. The EPS rating is only a 2, the group RS is a C+, the SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall comps rating is a very poor 65. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past 2 years, and you have 2 high-quality funds investing into this stock. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see that the RS line has been increasing nicely, and overall it's pulling back, not even to the 21 EMA, and the overall RS rating is a very strong 94. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a green dot early next week, and eventually a breakout into all-time highs above 239.14. And overall, I love how it's holding this 10 EMA here during this pullback. A lot of the stronger stocks will pull back to their 10, even 21 EMAs. And Roku really is showing something special by not giving much back after a huge run. Next on the list, we've got Sale, and taking a look at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth here. Last quarter, earnings up 999%, sales up 47%, and return on equity up 9%. And you can see it's supposed to take a hit in 2020, but it's supposed to bounce right back in 2021. And overall, the EPS rating is a 99, the group RS is a B, SMR rating is a B, accumulation distribution is an A-, the overall comps rating is a 98. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see it hasn't changed too much over the past 2 years, but you do have 1 high-quality fund investing into this stock. And looking at the chart, you can see that it just had a recent gap up on volume, and overall is consolidating nicely. And if we go to a weekly chart, it's actually been tight the past few weeks. I think it's actually a 4-week tight, but this just says 3 weeks. And as for the entry setup, what I want to see, if we go to the chart in TC2000, is a continuation off this bounce off the 21 EMA, a green dot early next week, and eventually a breakout into all-time highs above 48.13. So that is SAIL. Next up, we've got C Limited. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see it's not yet profitable, but does have really nice revenue growth, over 100% the past 4 quarters. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see it's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years. The EPS rating is only a 23. The group R is an A, SMR rating is a D, accumulation distribution is a B, and the overall composite rating is an 83. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see that it's increased nicely over the past 2 years, and you do have Fidelity Contra Fund investing into it as well. And overall, looking at the chart, you can see that it moved up nicely into all-time highs, then pulled back to the 21 EMA, and overall the RS line has been increasing along with the price, and the overall rating is a very strong 99. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a green dot early next week as it moves up on volume. And I really like this reversal bar on Friday. A lot of the top growth stocks had similar days like this as it retook the 21 EMA. So that is SE. And next up, we've got SQ or Square Inc. And overall, you can see that there hasn't been earnings growth the past 2 quarters, but it has had really nice revenue growth. Last quarter up 64%, and return on equity was up as well, up 20.1%. And overall in 2020, you can see it was supposed to take a hit, but it's supposed to bounce right back in 2021, up 119%, with the revisions up as well. The EPS rating is a 71, the group R is an A, SMR rating is a B, accumulation distribution is a B+, and the overall composite rating is a 98. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increase over the past 2 years, and you have a whole bunch of high-quality funds investing into this stock. And looking at the chart, you can see it's pulled back to the 21 EMA, like a lot of growth stocks, and overall the RS line is pulling back as well, and the overall rating is a very strong 97. And as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a green dot or teal dot early next week, and a follow-up from this upside reversal on Friday. So that is SQ, and next up we've got the solar ETF TAN. And overall, you can see that it's been increasing dramatically since the stage 1 cup with handle. And the entry setup that I would like to see is a green dot early next week or teal dot off this 21 EMA, confirming the bounce. And overall, I think this is a better way to play these solar names at this moment because their earnings are coming up. And you've also got the added uncertainty given the national election. So that is TAN. And next on the list, we've got Tesla. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth here. Last quarter earnings up 105%, sales up 39%, and return on equity up 25.7%. And looking at the annual estimates, you can see that it increased dramatically in 2020, and it's supposed to increase again in 2021 of 59%, with the revisions up as well. The EPS rating is a 77, the group R is an A+, the SMR rating is a C, accumulation distribution is a B, and the overall composite rating is a 99. And as for the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend, and you have 4 high-quality funds in there as well. And look at the chart, you can see that it's in a stage 1 consolidation with a standard pivot of 502.49, and you've got the RS rating, a very strong 99, and the RS line basing along with price. And as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a bounce off this 50 SMA and eventually a breakout above this kind of resistance area of 462.80 on above average volume, and eventually a breakout into all-time highs above 502.49. So that is Tesla, and next up we've got TTD. And looking at the earnings and sales, you can see there was nice growth a few quarters ago, not so much this most recent quarter. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see it was supposed to be down in 2020, but it's supposed to pick right back up in 2021. The overall EPS rating is a 97, the group R is an A+, the SMR rating is an A, commission distribution is a B, and the overall composite rating is a 96. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past 2 years, and you have 5 high-quality funds investing as well. And looking at the chart, you can see it's pulled back slightly to the 10 EMA area, and overall you can see the RS line is right near all-time highs with a very strong RS rating of 97. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a bounce off this 10 EMA, and eventually a breakout into all-time highs above 675 flat. So next up on the list, we've got ZI, Zoom Info Tech. And overall, looking at the earnings and sales, you can see excellent growth here. Last quarter earnings up 75%, sales up 62%, and return on equity up 43.1%. And looking at the annual EPS estimates, you can see in 2020 is supposed to just be profitable, and in 2021 have a further 47% growth, although revisions are down. The EPS rating is 76, the group R is an A+, the SMR rating is not available, commission distribution is a B+, and the overall composite rating is an 83. And looking at the fund ownership, you can see that a lot of funds already are invested into this stock, and you have 3 high-quality funds investing into it as well. And looking at the chart, you can see it's formed a short-term consolidation under this 4620 pivot, and it tried to break out last week, but that breakout failed. But overall, it's setting up and finding support at the 21 EMA. And as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a bounce off this 21 EMA and potentially a green dot early next week, and eventually a definitive breakout on above average volume above this pivot of 4620. So that is ZI. And next up, we've got another Zoom video. And overall, you can see fantastic earnings and sales. Last quarter earnings up 999%, sales up 355%, and return on equity of 45.1%. And overall, you can see there's supposed to be a huge boost this year for obvious reasons, and a further 10% growth in 2022. The EPS rating is an A4, the group R is an A+, the SMA rating is an A, accumulation distribution is an A-, and the overall composite rating is a 99. And look at the fund ownership, you can see a nice increasing trend over the past few years, and you also have Fidelity Contra Fund investing in it as well. And overall, looking at a chart, you can see that it's been increasing nicely and has recovered and formed a U after this huge earnings gap up, and is now pulled back to 21 EMA with the RS line right near all-time highs and an overall RS rating of 99. So as for the entry setup, what I want to see is a teal dot or green dot early next week, which confirms the bounce or potentially a breakout above this inside day pivot, which is the high of the previous day at 530.43. So that is Zoom, and this is one of my top 3 setups for this week, along with Net and also Sale. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any thoughts or stocks you think I should be looking at, let me know down below in the comment section. And other than that, make sure you guys leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you guys in future videos.